And Donald Trump thinks he's doing a terrific job as president. So do his supporters agree with that? We gathered a group of voters together here in Mississippi yesterday. Some backed Trump for president, some didn't. And of course, there was plenty to talk about. Here are some of their impressions of President Trump after 600 days in office.
What's Donald Trump's best quality?
The fact that he will identify a problem, believe he's right in the way that he goes about solving it or tackling that problem. He doesn't sidestep it. He doesn't sidestep it. He goes full head on with how he believes it should be handled, and he doesn't seek anyone else's approval to do that.
I would agree with Rita that he is a strong charging man in terms of trying to move forward his agenda. I don't find him to be the kind of person that holds his finger up in the air to see which way the wind is blowing before he makes a decision. And so I think that's an admirable quality.
I would have to say his directness is probably his best quality, and it comes from his days in Manhattan as selling real estate and his Trump brand. But he has the, he conveys the sense that he is absolutely certain of his position.
What's his worst quality?
His self-centeredness is what I get. He's not, in terms of being president, his worst quality is his lack of inclusiveness. He panders to a very small subset of the Republican side of the ledger. He didn't run as a Republican. He wasn't a Republican candidate. He basically was co-opted into the Breitbart, Fox News machine. He needed it because he needed a sense of coherence in policy and approach to politics. They provided that for him.
Howie, what's the president's best quality, worst quality?
I think, like others have said, it's his fact that he believes wholly in himself and what he can do. But I would also argue that that is his worst quality as well, because so many times that he is ill-informed and he refuses to seek out counsel who, whether it's being a lawyer or an engineer or anybody else, he refuses to listen to them and what they have to bring to the table. And a lot of times throughout his history, he's shown he had that then go hire lawyers and other people to mop up his mistakes. And that's a why would we have to have a mistake with the president? You can't make a mistake when you're president of the United States.
His best quality, deception. That's as high as I can go.
Okay.
So it's deception because, for example, when you look at the economy, and he's taking credit for the economy, we know that when Obama inherited his economy, we were in a recession. And over time, we were emerging out of that, or evolving out of that recession. And so now, Donald John Trump is taking credit for us being where we are, and that's deception.
You like that middle name of his?
Yes, his worst quality is division.
Division.
Divisiveness.
Best quality, I guess this is most beneficial quality to him, is his ability to just deny, and never accept, never admit to having done something. Because, in the past, politicians, if something like the Access Hollywood tape had come out, they would have come out and apologized and admitted that they did it. And, with Trump, he said, oh, well, it's just locker room talk. There was no big act of contrition. And when he did that, I started realizing that actually works. If you just don't admit to something and you don't really show contrition, you can actually just move forward as a politician, and it won't ruin your career like it has so many others. So that's been very beneficial to him in many circumstances, I think. Worst quality, I would have to go with his narcissism, because I think he finds it really difficult to disentangle Trump from America in terms of what's good for Trump and what's good for America. I think he tends to see those things as intertwined. And so he can't really see when he's doing something that he thinks is beneficial for him. He can't see the damage it might be causing to the country as a whole.
So, Mika, what was I think the most interesting take was, first of all, the 4 people that voted for Trump are still with Trump.
Yeah.
Even if one of them wouldn't use Trump's name. He said, I voted for Pence.
And they will vote for him again.
But they said they would vote for him again in the general, but it was very interesting.
Caveats.
Every single one. I said, well, what if Mike Pence or Nikki Haley ran against him in a primary. They said, oh, we'd be totally open to that, which is interesting. You wouldn't have gotten that with Barack Obama and Democrats 18 months in. You wouldn't have gotten that with George W. Bush supporters. But everyone who said we are behind Donald Trump all said, oh, yeah, if Nikki Haley ran against him, if Mike Pence ran against him, oh, we'd certainly consider that.
That was by far the most surprising takeaway of sitting down with this group of voters, because I've listened to probably 50, 60 focus groups of voters around the country, and I've never really seen that shift to looking at the prospect of supporting another candidate for the Republican nomination from voters who identify as strong Trump supporters. I would say that's definitely a fault line that President Trump should be aware of going into the midterms and over the next 2 years as he looks to his reelection.
Yeah, that doesn't usually happen with incumbent presidents in certain parties. But again, these same Trump supporters weren't willing to say that he lied, or they weren't willing to say that he said anything that was racially insensitive. They weren't. I mean, you just go down the list, and they sounded like Trump supporters. They were going to defend him, but you get the real impression it was, yes, we will defend Trump instead of Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton or the mainstream press. But at the same time, you could hear they were Republicans. A lot of them said, you know, one of them said John McCain. Mika did this great word association game. John McCain, hero. Robert Mueller, you know, fact finder. They had positive things to say about a lot of the people that Donald Trump's been critical of. But you know what I saw out of that? I saw at the end of the day Republicans. Republicans who had a chance to beat Hillary Clinton and who don't want Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, the great primary challenges, you know, Ford and Reagan against Ford, Kennedy against Carter, both set up defeats. It wouldn't stun me to see the same dynamic, because there is, if anything, the divide between the elements of the party is even more profound now. Listening to him, it sounded, and was it like this in the room? It sounds as though they're describing their kid has stolen the neighbor's car, wrecked it, but they still love the kid.
Yeah.
And so you see what I mean?
I did.
It's like, you know, yeah, we know he's, you know, doing drugs, but, you know, he's a good kid, and we're going to get him together. I
asked them about, for example, Stormy Daniels, and it was like the answer we got a couple times over was, I would not want my spouse to do that.
Right. So it's.
Yeah, this is the question I wanted to ask. I mean, Joe, you were saying they were Republicans,
right?
And in the context of the conversation, did you get a sense that the well-being of the country was more of a concern than their identity as a Republican?
Well, I can
what Trump was doing.
I can tell you, especially with Pat, the one that kept winking at Mika, saying "bless your heart." With Pat, she believes that America's in trouble, and that Donald Trump is the only one fighting to revive the country. And I know Elise is I don't know if you're a fellow former Republican, but at one point we were both Republicans for most of our lives. The great frustration with Republicans has been, we elect Republican presidents, we knock on doors for them, we have blood, sweat, and tear for these people, we contribute to them, and then they appoint liberal justices. Or then they back down. Then they try to make a deal on immigration with Ted Kennedy. Then they try to make a deal with Ted Kennedy on education. Then they do all of these things that they told us they weren't going to do, because they all tell us they're going to all move the embassy to Jerusalem. They all tell us that. And it all ends up being a lie. And Elise, what they were saying was, unlike every other Republican president we've elected, this guy is doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
He's delivering on the economy. They like the job numbers, and they like the tax cuts overall. One question at the very beginning of the roundtable was striking, I think, in illustrating kind of how we arrived to this moment. And that was when you were asking the sources of media that everyone listened to or read. And they were talking about how their habits had changed from reading local newspapers to now just watching, strictly, say, Fox News. And so I think that it's we have this just cycle of super polarization that if we just insulate and just go further into our own caves and don't listen to anyone else, that the country, it's only going to be this, crisis of rancor.
Yeah, no, and I also saw something happening with the truth in this conversation. I asked several Trump supporters, when he lies in tweets, and they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, President Obama wiretapping Trump Tower. Well, did he or didn't he? And then you think about the tweets about Puerto Rico, and it was really, for me as someone who at least wants the truth to not be in question, that was frightening.
But let's face it, though, Willie, Democrats did that with Bill Clinton. Yeah. I mean, I remember none other than Daniel Patrick Moynihan saying if Bill Clinton's lying about Monica Lewinsky, he has to resign.
Right.
Then he finds out that Bill Clinton lied about Monica Lewinsky, and suddenly he shape-shifted and decided that he needed to stay. I mean, all parties do this.
Yep.
Republicans did this with George W. Bush. We're fiscal conservatives. He doubles the national debt. Democrats did this with Bill Clinton. It does seem a hell of a lot more extreme with Donald Trump. But I'm not so sure.
The door was opened.
I'm not so sure that Donald Trump is not just the logical conclusion to a lot of dysfunction that we've been seeing for 30 years.
I would also say quickly, just off your focus group, the hardcore Donald Trump supporters are even harder core than they were on Election Day because they believe that he is under assault from the media, from Democrats, and from the Justice Department with the Russia investigation. What I'm interested in are the Republicans who took a flyer on him because they didn't like Hillary Clinton. Where are they today?
Coming up, live coverage of Hurricane Florence lashing the Carolina coast. Bill Cairns has the storm track straight ahead. Plus, we told you about Paul Manafort possibly angling for a plea deal. We'll tell you what Rudy Giuliani is saying about that. Morning Joe is coming right back. Pat. She winks at me. Is that okay?
That's good.
I like it.
That's a good thing. Now, listen, let me just tell you, since you're a Yankee, if she says, bless your heart, that's not positive. That is not, Pat has not said, bless your heart. Bless her heart. Oh, bless her heart.
If you say, bless your heart and wink, I'm leaving.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.